Hey, so this is gonna sound crazy, but I swear to God, every word of this is true. Like, I didn't even believe it myself at first. Thought I was losing my mind. But by the end, there wasn't much room left for doubt. But let's start from the beginning. So, about 6 months ago, I moved into this old apartment building downtown. It wasn't anything fancy. Just your typical brick exterior, creaky wooden floors, and radiator heat that sounded like someone was stomping around upstairs when it turned on. You know the type. Anyway, rent was cheap, which was the main selling point for me since I'd just graduated and was scraping by working 2 part-time jobs. The landlord, Mr. Henderson, seemed nice enough, though he had this habit of calling everyone kid. He gave me the grand tour during move-in day, pointing out things like how the water pressure sucked and where the fuse box was located. Spoiler, it's in the basement. Everything seemed fine until we got to the last door down the hall. This one's been empty for years, he said, jingling his keys nervously. Nobody ever stays long. I tilted my head, curious. Why not? Is it haunted or something? He chuckled awkwardly, scratching the back of his neck. Nah, kid, nothing like that. Just bad vibes, I guess. People don't stick around long, that's all. Okay, sure, whatever. At the time, I thought it was just him being weird. Who knows what kind of stories landlords make up to keep tenants away from certain units, right? So I shrugged it off and focused on unpacking. Fast forward a couple weeks, and everything was going pretty normal. I mean, life as a broke 20-something isn't exactly thrilling, but I was settling into my routine. That's when the weird stuff started happening. It began with the noises. Little things at first. Footsteps outside my door late at night. Faint whispers coming from somewhere down the hall. I figured it was just the building settling, or maybe another tenant walking around. But then one night, I woke up to the sound of knocking. Not on my door, though. It was coming from that apartment, the one nobody wanted to live in. Now here's the thing. According to Mr. Henderson, that place had been vacant for years. There weren't any lights on inside, no signs of furniture, nothing. And yet, there it was, a steady rhythm of knocks echoing through the walls. Boom, boom, boom. I lay there frozen, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe a branch hitting the window, or some stray cat tapping on the glass. Yeah, totally plausible, except the knocking didn't stop. If anything, it got louder, more insistent. After what felt like hours, it finally went quiet, and I drifted back to sleep. But then it happened again the next night, and the night after that. Every single night, without fail, the same pattern. 3 knocks, spaced evenly apart, always coming from that apartment. Alright, fine. Maybe now I'm starting to get a little spooked. So I decided to do what anyone would do. I asked around, asked other tenants if they'd heard anything strange, mentioned the knocking casually over coffee with the guy who lived across the hall. Turns out, yeah, they'd noticed too. Some people said it had been going on for months. Others claimed it had been years. One woman even told me she used to hear screaming coming from that apartment before she moved in. Screaming. By this point, I was officially freaked out. Like, full-on can't sleep with the lights off freaked out. So I called Mr. Henderson and demanded answers. He showed up the next afternoon, looking less than thrilled to see me. "What's going on with apartment 3B?" I blurted as soon as he walked in. His face went pale. "Kid, I told you, bad vibes. Leave it alone." "Bad vibes? Are you serious?" "People are hearing noises, Mr. Henderson. Actual noises. What's really going on?" He hesitated, glancing around like he was afraid someone might overhear us. Then he leaned in close, lowering his voice. "Listen, kid. Years ago, a woman lived in that apartment. Her name was Eleanor. She disappeared one night, just vanished without a trace. No note, no explanation, nothing. cops searched the place top to bottom, couldn't find a thing. But after that, well, things got weird. Things got weird how? I pressed. He sighed, rubbing his temples. People started reporting strange sounds. Knocking, whispering, footsteps. A few tried moving in, thinking it was just their imagination. None of them lasted more than a week. Said they could feel eyes on them, watching them. I stared at him, heart pounding. And you never thought to mention this before? Look, kid, it's an old building. Weird shit happens. Most folks don't care as long as the rent's cheap. Yeah, great. Thanks for the honesty, Mr. Henderson. Anyway, that conversation didn't exactly ease my nerves. In fact, it made me paranoid AF. I started noticing little details I hadn't paid attention to before. The way the air seemed colder near that apartment. The faint smell of mildew whenever I passed by. The way the shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should. And then there were the dreams. Oh man, the dreams. They were vivid, almost too real. In each one, I'd find myself standing outside apartment 3B, staring at the peeling paint on the door. The handle would turn slowly, creaking open to reveal an empty room. Empty except for a figure sitting in the corner, hunched over, facing away from me. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was watching me. Every time I tried to run, the floor beneath me would dissolve into darkness, pulling me down deeper and deeper. Needless to say, I wasn't sleeping much. One night, I snapped. I mean, how many times can you listen to those damn knocks before losing it completely? So I grabbed a flashlight and marched straight to apartment 3B, determined to figure out what the hell was going on once and for all. The door was locked, obviously, but I knocked anyway. 3 times. Boom. 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 Silence followed, heavy and oppressive. Then, after what felt like forever, I heard it. A soft, raspy voice whispering my name from the other side of the door. I bolted, ran all the way back to my apartment, slamming the door behind me and barricading it with a chair. I didn't leave for days. Ordered takeout, watched Netflix, convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. Eventually, the knocking stopped. The whispers faded. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after something like that. But here's the kicker. I still haven't moved out. Why? Because every time I think about packing up and leaving, I catch a glimpse of something in the hallway mirror, a fleeting shadow darting past apartment 3B. And I swear sometimes I can feel its gaze boring into the back of my skull, waiting for me to turn around. So yeah, that's my story. Believe it or not, it's all true. And if you're thinking about renting in an old apartment building downtown, trust me, you'll want to steer clear of apartment 3B.